Okay. Well, I had to make this video because I'm seeing some stuff on social media that just doesn't belong here. Basically, we've got a website, usa-evo.com, that's dedicated to educating the American public so that they can cast an educated vote. Well, is that happening? No. I gotta check the figures later to find out in the Iowa caucus how many votes were cast Democrat and how many were cast Republican. And take a look at that and find out where we are. But for the time being, we're going to take a look at one issue that's coming up. Okay. Social media. It's getting this kind of stuff on it. If you're withholding 71 documents and blocking 12 witnesses from testifying, we as Americans conclude you have something to hide. Okay. This is the Democratic platform for 2020. Democratic platform for 2020 is based on the simple concept of you're guilty until proven innocent. Let's take a look at that. Presumption of guilt. Presumption of guilt is a principle that one is considered guilty unless proven innocent. Thus, the burden of proof is on the accused, not the accuser. Presumption of guilt is a denial of an international human right under Article 11 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Under the presumption of guilt, the legal burden of proof is on the defense, which must collect and present compelling evidence to the tier of fact. Presumptions of guilt shifts the burden of proof onto the defendant, who must then prove their innocence in order to achieve acquittal. Now let's take a look at this. And we're going to take a close look at it because basically what the Democrats are asking is, and we've seen this continuously, is basically the Democrats keep on asking the president to, Mr. President, give us evidence to convict yourself. Oh, and if you don't give us the evidence to convict yourself, you must be guilty. Is that what this country's coming to? Now, I did a little bit of investigation into this, and you're going to find this a little bit shocking. It's already happening here in the United States. In Florida, today, the Sheldon Case. Well, this is it says this case arises in the unfortunate context of a drug case, but that does not mean it is unimportant, and it certainly is no reason for conservatives to be concerned. The underlying principle is simple and of universal applicability. If the government cannot prove that an individual knew its acts were potentially criminal, then that individual should not be criminally liable. Well, right now in Florida, they're trying to accuse someone in possession of drugs of, with no evidence, but I don't know. You can read this court case and get into it. That began in 1966 and again in 2002. Some politicians and some people want to go to a new court system that you're guilty until proven innocent. Well, okay. They used that in socialist countries, but not here in America. Well, here's another one. This is Nelson versus Colorado. Basically, in this one, Uh, the person was found innocent on a retrial. They were already fined. The state confiscated a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of other stuff. And now they're suing to get their money back. Hey, the court said I'm innocent. There's no reason for you to keep my property and my money. And the court's saying, well, you got to prove you're innocent to us too. Well, I already proved that in court. What am I going to prove it again for? With so many constitutional rights under siege, it's welcome news when one of them is defended. Reaffirming the presumption of innocence, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a Colorado law last month that forced criminal defendants to prove their innocence when the defendants' convictions were already overturned. In other words, you can go through a trial, be found innocent, and a court can still convict you. But now, instead of, because the state couldn't provide enough evidence to convict you, now we're going to put you on trial again, and now you got to prove your innocence. Isn't that the same thing they're trying to do with the president now? Now we got to find the people behind this socialist activity, and we got to get rid of them. Where does this come from? Well, I was looking for examples of it. I mean, basically, they got examples of this in Russia, China, and everything else. And to our friends in Mexico. In Mexico, those arrested are in practice considered guilty until proven innocent with predictable results. The great majority of the accused never see a judge or even an arrest warrant. At present, a person who commits a crime in Mexico has less than a 2% chance of being caught and punished, in part because police often ask a person who reports a crime to pay for the case to be solved. A person who refuses risks being a suspect, him or herself, which discourages cooperation with police. A study released in 2008 indicated that Mexican citizens had extremely low confidence in police action and efficiency, which causes them to shy away from reporting crimes. You can read this article. I mean, basically, this is in Mexico, but is there a link between, let me see, Democrats inviting a whole bunch of people in from Mexico, and maybe we should adapt their court system too and their method of investigation? I mean, come on, I'm seeing this clearly defined that, man, these Democrats are putting us in a really tough case. Okay, we're getting into this guilty before proven innocent. Let's go back to the Dark Ages. Come on. How many millions of Christians, Jews, and Muslims were basically, cruelly murdered by the church because they couldn't prove their innocence? They were guilty when they were brought in. It's history. It's fact. You can look at this on your own. But I'll tell you, I saw some statistics. We've been doing some stuff because basically it's like what, the 75th anniversary of Auschwitz. My daughter's been working on that story and putting some of those stories up on usa-evote.com. Less than 22% of millennials know that Auschwitz existed, and less than half millennials know there was a Holocaust. I mean, people are losing this history, and we all know, we should all know, that if you fail to learn from history, you're condemned to repeat it. Do you want to undergo another Nazi regime here in the United States? Now here we got one example. You can look this up yourself. You can look at science versus religion, or science versus the Catholic Church, or everything. I mean, Galileo, the guy was basically condemned because he had the technology and the science to prove that the sun was the center of our universe. He proved it beyond any shadow of a doubt. Today, I can't say everyone, but most people tend to believe that. But he was brought up to trial on this, and basically, I mean, had to prove his innocence. Proved his innocence beyond any shadow of doubt. But because he didn't prove his innocence based on the criteria the Catholic Church had set up, the guy was condemned. Anyway, you can go through this and you can find trial after trial after trial after trial of people being condemned in a court of law because, according to the rules of the court, they were unable to prove their innocence. Well, this is really getting to be a problem. And this is just as shocking. Iowa's likely Democratic caucus goers say that it is more important to nominate a candidate for president with a strong chance of beating President Donald Trump than it is to nominate someone who shares their positions on major issues. The results are part of the latest Des Moines Register /CSN/Mediacom.Iowa poll of likely Democratic caucus goers. 65%, that's 2/3 of those who plan to caucus in person, say beating Donald Trump is the greater priority, and 31% say finding a candidate who shares their position on issues is more important. Now, I want you to do a little bit of homework. Pay attention to the speeches these Democrats are making. They're talking about they're the best person to beat Trump. They think they can beat Trump. As a matter of fact, you got some real idiots who I have absolutely zero respect for, claiming that they can take Trump on in a one-on-one fight. You know, they're talking about physically fighting the president. Hey, come on. You start investigating these trials, medieval trials. There's a thing called trial by combat that they used to have. There's a whole series of them. I forgot what they actually call them. Trial by ordeal. Well, you were guilty, but you had to prove your innocence by walking through fire, or we tie you up, throw you in a cold lake, and if you survived, oh, you were innocent. If you didn't, if you walked across hot coals and got burned, you were guilty. And these Democrats are proposing that we go back to the same damn thing they had in the Dark Ages, to where people were guilty until proven innocent. And people are falling for it. Look at this. People are falling for it. I mean, these people are idiots. They're voters with no common sense. And this Iowa poll shows that 65% of those voters have no common sense. They don't know. They don't even care what the issues are. They don't even care. I'll tell you, you take any one of those 6 Democratic nominees, which one of them knows how to deal with Iran and Iraq? Which one of them can take an economy that was basically faltering and turn it into the greatest economy this country and world has ever seen? How many of those are going to make promises and actually fulfill 1 or 2 of those promises if they're elected? Well, the only promise that Trump hasn't fulfilled is he hasn't built the wall. So we dropped that one. Okay, so what about his other promises? You go through all his campaign promises, I think you're going to find out he's the only politician in the last since I've been alive that's been able to fulfill them. There were a couple of them back in the 60s that actually fulfilled their promises, but I tell you, through the 70s and 80s, that fell away drastically. Okay, we're going to take a look at this Iowa caucus thing. And when we look at it, the Democrats are having problems. They don't agree with the results. Well, this is pretty strange because they didn't agree with the results of the last election. Democrats in limbo after results chaos. I mean, okay, so we got a collection of people here in Iowa. They call themselves Democratic candidates. They can't even agree with the results that they see. They're pointing fingers at each other. Come on, man. This is a cancer. You take an oath of office, military oath, you're supposed to follow the orders of your superiors and the commander-in-chief, which is the President of the United States. Regardless of if you like them or not, if you agree with them or not. And all of our representatives are supposed to take an oath of office upholding the laws of the Constitution. Well, they don't want to anymore. They want to change a couple of those laws. They want to change the laws in the Constitution about impeachment because they claim we need a more modern view of it. They call in a bunch of socialist professors that want to get rid of the Constitution, and they impeach the president based on a socialist view of the Constitution. There's no evidence that they have. They claim that they had all of this evidence. They claim that they had overwhelming evidence. But when they walked those papers across from the House of Representatives through the Capitol over to the Senate floor, what happened to all that evidence? Since they'd been standing on the Senate floor, all they've been doing is complaining they don't have the evidence. And they claim it's the president's job to supply this evidence. Well, not here in America. I got news for you. Not here in America. Not anywhere in the civilized world. Not only do the Democrats want to change the Constitution and the laws of impeachment, they want to change the judicial system. Why? Maybe they want to get rid of everyone that disagrees with them. Arrest them, throw them in jail if they can't prove their innocence. Do away with them. Is this what it's coming to? I mean, we are not bordering on socialism here. We're being engulfed by socialism. You look at Bernie Sanders. Yeah, socialist introducing himself. He's talking about taking control of companies. And you can do a little bit of investigation yourself and find out that the main core of socialism is taking control of companies. If you own a company, would you want the state coming in and taking that company away from you or sending someone in to run that company? Let me tell you, you don't think it's happening today. They're holding meetings with socialists all over the countries trying to infiltrate and trying to get people like this convinced that, hey, if you join us and help us to win, hey, you're in with us. Everyone that helps establish our foundation, we're going to give you a nice cushy job running a company. You don't have to do a damn thing. You don't have to know anything about it. Look at Joe Biden. Hey, we put him in charge of an oil company in Ukraine making $1 million a year. We can do that for Hunter Biden. We can do that for you. All you got to do is get us elected. And we got all these companies we can put you in charge of. Okay. I know a guy that owns and runs a recycling company. I talked to him. I says, well, if these Democrats win and they start sending people to take over your business, I says, how far is your recycling business going to go when they take someone fresh out of college, some 22-year-old kid, and stick him in charge of your company. You gonna help them run that company? You gonna teach them everything that you learned over the last 30 years? You gonna teach them which buttons to push and how to maintain all the equipment? No. What do you think happened in South America in a couple of them countries like Venezuela and Chile? Hey, they fell for that promise. 3 months later, they couldn't feed their people. And this is what Democrats want to do today. They can't even agree with each other. They're fighting amongst each other. You put these people in charge, all they're going to do is be fighting against one another. Sure, we take Trump out, and we take this person out, we take that person out, we take that person out. Anyone that doesn't agree with me has got to go. That's socialism. Anyway, I hope you learned a little bit about investigating a little about things before you wind up voting. What the law actually is, not only in the United States, but worldwide for all civilized societies. That when you investigate this, you're finding out that they're trying to push their agenda, not only in a federal, but state by state. And they're taking over. And they're doing this. They're taking ideas from Mexico, from China, from Russia. Joe Biden, that's his main thing. He set up a mixture of a democratic socialist society over in Ukraine. And what do we get when we search Ukraine? It's the one I searched before. Ukraine is a source, transit, and destination country for men, women, and children trafficking transnationally for the purpose of commercial sexual exploitation and forced labor. Ukrainian women are trafficked to Russia, Poland, Turkey, China, the Czech Republic, and United Arab Emirates, Austria, Italy, Portugal, Germany, Greece, Israel, Spain, all over the world. This is Ukraine today. This is what they're doing. You know what? January of 2019, there was a new law signed that said the president had the responsibility of withholding funds from countries involved in human trafficking. And then the Democrats decided to release a whole bunch of funds to Ukraine. Yeah, okay, so the president gets this thing. Oh, I'm supposed to give all this money to Ukraine? Wait a second here. It just so happens I've got my daughter, one of my chief advisors, that's been watching this human trafficking, that knows there's this law that says I am solely responsible for investigating countries and their involvement in human trafficking before releasing funds. I better do that. So President Trump investigates Ukraine and their policies on human trafficking before releasing those funds. And the Democrats cry out, oh, obstruction, obstruction, obstruction. We released funds to Ukraine, and now we've got a president that's obstructing Congress. Oh, okay. Well, if the president didn't investigate Ukraine, they would have been crying, oh, the president released funds to Ukraine, who's known for human trafficking, and broke that law that he signed in January of 2019. Democrats created a win-win situation for them, or they think they did. You know why they did that? Because we got fools like this that don't investigate anything. We got fools like this that They don't care what the issues are. All they want to do is beat President Trump. Why? Because we got people making up stories. So, this is an election of the wise versus the fools. And that's all it is. Because right now, the Democrats have set up a situation to where all they're going to do is campaign. And the only issue in their campaign is the president withheld information. The president is keeping information away from the American people. Well, how can the president produce information that doesn't exist? What these dumbass people don't see is that we let them win. We're throwing away our judicial system, our way of life in America. Every man, woman, and child will be able to be arrested, and if you can't prove your innocence, you must be guilty. That's what the Democrats are running on. And they think they got enough idiots like this to win the election. Is that true? We're going to find out by the end of the year.